Hello. Um, I never thought that it's gonna become my thing to come on here and say and be like, hello. But I guess that is what has happened. And today we are talking about poetry, which I don't even know. Since the day I started filming these videos, my I was so excited to just start talking about poetry because it's my thing. Poetry is my thing, and today we are talking about why I write poetry, what I write, um, how did it start, the story behind the whole thing. Um, if you watched my last video, you'd understand that I've decided to go with making story time sort of videos, at least for this one, because I never really decide what I'm gonna film until the last few minutes. And I've just like I came into my filming area and I sat down and I was like, okay, Chelsea, what are we gonna talk about today? And so here's the tip. If you never uh, if there are times when you're not able to decide what you're gonna um, sort of write, or if you're an artist, if you paint, or you're into any creative field or anything like that, and if you're not able to decide, or if you feel like you're not getting the right ideas, sit down, take a notebook, and just write a page or two. Or usually you're supposed to write 3 pages because that really empties your mind. That is what I've noticed and that is what I've heard. But you can just write like 1 page of anything that comes to your mind. Just start writing. Don't think about it. If you're thinking about your coffee going cold because you haven't sipped on it for the last 20 minutes, write it down. Just write anything coming to your mind. And once you've emptied your current thoughts on paper, which we usually, creative people in general, have a lot of thoughts throughout the day. I mean, everybody does, but we kind of have this rush of different things inspiring us and pulling us back and pushing us forward. I think it's a lot going on in here. So just write a page of anything that is coming to your mind, and then give it time. Don't just sit there and wait for the idea. Give it a little time. It will just come to you. It comes to me within seconds now. I started writing the page. I was halfway through and I had this idea that, I should just talk about poetry now. And if I am already wondering whether I should be talking about other subjects or about my own life, if I'm trying to incorporate my life into the videos that I'm making, then what should I go with? And I think this is the best topic because poetry is my life, as cheesy and as cliche it may sound. No matter if I stop painting for 6 months, if I stop all the things that I love doing, if I stop everything, I'm still gonna write. And it's just always going on in here. My throat is giving me a little trouble today, so bear with me. But yeah, now, where do we start? I think we should start from the start. When I decided to start writing, when I decided to, I think there was no decision. Um, I was always this person who loved reading poetry since I was very, very young. I think I started reading like novels and stuff when I was very young. Um, yeah, I read some really cute, some really cute books. There's this book called The Giggler's Treatment by, I think, Roddy Doyle. I'm not sure. I gave it to somebody. I think I gave it to a kid, but that was the first book I read. And it was so cute. There were these three uh, creatures that were called the Gigglers, and they would punish all the parents who scolded their children, and then they would punish them by placing poop on their path when they were going to work or going out or whatever. It was the funniest little book, and it was just so cute. So, so cute. All the characters in that book were like, I don't know, I just hold that book really dear to me. Yeah, so that was that. That is when I started reading. And then as time went by, I think I read this book when I was in third or fourth grade. And none of the other kids around me were reading at that time. So I was kind of like the odd one out, but it was fun. I think I read that book 2 times to actually understand exactly what was happening in the book. It was pretty funny, and I think my sister had read it before me. So, the little sister thing that you want to do what your sister does. Maybe that is why I started, yeah. And then, so yeah, as time went by, I realized that I loved reading in general, especially poems, because some of these writers that are in our sort of syllabus when we are younger are really great writers. Though sometimes it really shocks you. Like, we had this poem by Sylvia Plath in our syllabus, and it was one of her mellow poems, if you know what I mean. Like, when I grew up, I realized that not all her poems are mellow, and some of them are dark. Um, I still love her a lot, but yeah, I realized that they were portraying her as this stoic writer person by giving us that one poem, and the rest of it was like insane. But I think the rest of it was more relatable than the one we were given. But I completely understand, like, you can't hand that kind of poetry to a kid in the 6th grade, and it's a little dark. Anyways, so yeah, I loved reading. I loved The Road Not Taken. I there were a lot of poems that I loved to read in school. All my certificates from school are in English because I just love to read, I love to write. It never felt difficult for me to do those things. I found like maths and science and even Hindi difficult, and they would give me the scares that I'm never gonna get this. And but in general, yeah, so English, reading, and poetry made my life a lot easier in school. Then, fast forward to when I was 16, I I don't remember exactly the name of the poem, but this one day I was sitting in my sister's room and I had like a pen and paper, and I used to write like stuff in general. Up till this point, I had never even thought that I am ever going to be the person who writes anything. Even though it's crazy that when I was, I think, in third or fourth grade, I had tried to write a novel about this little girl who's separated from her dog um, during a cyclone. I started to write it, but obviously it was like didn't come together after the first 2 or 3 chapters. But yeah, but I had completely forgotten that, and I just thought I'm never going to be the person who writes anything. But then, yeah, fast forward to 16, I'm sitting there and I have a notebook in my hand, and I think it was called Cosmic Child or something like that, the first poem. I just sat down and I wrote about it. I really do not remember the lines, but I think it was something like that you're a cosmic child, and that I think it was like a message about how we should not be fearing anything really, because we are all here to experience life. I still had the same sort of thoughts about life in general back then. Um, I was still working through a lot of adolescent issues and stuff like that, where you're just kind of sad about everything. But this this poem, I handed it to my sister, and she was like, I just let her read it and said nothing, and then she was like, "This is really good. Who wrote this?" And I was like, "I wrote it." And she was like, "Now?" I was like, "Yeah, just now." And she was like, "Well, this is great." And I think that was the start of it. And then it was just like this thing I did like all the time. Um, I had this friend in school who knew exactly when I was writing, and they would just not disturb me when I was doing that, even if it was like school's over, everybody's packing up, everybody's going home, but I'm just writing, like finishing what I have on my mind, and they wouldn't stop me. And that was a sweet story. It's a sweet memory actually. But so I think I can actually read the poem, or at least show you guys. I don't think I'm really great at reading out poetry as of now, but I can show you guys what poem I'm talking about. By the way, this is my book. It's called As Simple and As Complicated as Love, and it is on Amazon. You can purchase it. You can also purchase the audiobook, I think. I'll add the links. I keep forgetting this stuff, but I'll add the links. And if you're wondering what this is, it is a value study from The Great Gatsby, the movie. I was thinking of painting this scene where these two women are like sitting on the sofa, and one of them is blonde, one of them has, I think, black hair, and it was a nice scene, so I thought I'll paint it sometime in the future. But as you can see, that isn't going very well. This is a different painting from a different movie. I love painting from movies, but I don't know, I have time. I'm not gonna say I don't have time to finish it, but I know that once I start, it's going to take me like the first sitting is going to take like at least 6-7 hours, and I'm just iffy about getting into it. But yeah, so even this is something I've talked about in one of my previous videos where I was talking about what really matters. And I have that belief so strongly in my head that even the first page of my book has a quote that relates to that. It says, "If life was merciful, all you would know would be shallow happiness." And I live by that. I don't want mercy from life. I want life. Okay. So the poem was this poem that I was writing in school. I think I was in 11th, 12th grade. I don't even remember. But the one that I was just scribbling away at and nobody wanted to stop me. It was "For All Is One." Yeah, on page number 21 of my book, it was "For All Is One." It is, okay, I think I'm just gonna read it. It goes something like this. This poem was basically about me always having this vision in my mind of a place that I really just crave to go to. It is a place among the trees of it's like a meadow, but it is also like a clearing in between a lot of trees, like it's a forest, but there's a clearing in between. And I just craved to go to this place. And since I've grown up in the mountains, for all of you who don't know, I've grown up in Manali in Himachal Pradesh. And when I had to move out of there, it was like a big change for me. And now I live in Delhi, so you know what kind of a change I'm talking about. But yeah, so I just craved going back to the mountains and just experiencing that life again. And I think it stemmed somewhere from there. For all is one. There is a path among the trees. It leads to a world that's free of noise and judgment, a long stretch of untouched land, protected by tall and silent green beings. This field has secrets buried in its soil. The morning breeze whispers to the birds. It snows here ever so quietly. If you stayed and watched, you'd know every flake's story. You are welcome here, but you must not interrupt the melody of the snow and the breeze. At night, you must lay in the grass, look at the stars, watch them dance. The deep skies and chilly air leave a rose on your cheeks and little silver twigs in your hair. This is a place I would take my lover and tell them how all is one. And once we lay in the field, they would believe me, for they would know. I've never read this one out to, I think maybe I've read it out to one or two friends, but otherwise I haven't. And this is one of my favorite poems that I have written. It just kind of brings together a lot of things that I hold very dear. One of them is nature, the other one is the night sky. I don't know, I'm like, maybe because the stars and all of that, maybe because I'm like a hopeless romantic or whatever it is. I'm very attracted to the night sky. And then it's about this intimacy and this closeness with this one person where you don't have to speak to them, you just show them something that means a lot to you and they understand what you're kind of talking about. And yeah, I think that is what this poem is about. Yeah. I also wanted to share what some of my favorite poems are, what some of my favorite poetry books are. I lent people a lot of my books, so I don't have all of them right now, but I can definitely talk about which ones I love. And yeah, so Sylvia Plath, I've already spoken about her. This is the book that I have from her. It's Selected Poems by Sylvia Plath. There are so many that I really deeply love out of these. I think I've marked a few. Yes, The Moon and the Yew Tree. This one is on page 33 of this book. I love it. I love it, love it, love it. There's this one line that I always remember. It's, let me see. Clouds are flowering, blue and mystical over the face of the stars. It just gives me this mental image of, you know, when you look at the clouds in the nighttime and they look sort of like smoky blue, and if they're in like patches, they look like flowers. And when she says that the clouds are flowering over the night sky, it's just, it just gives me this visual, this sort of hypnotic visual of the clouds blooming into flowers, and I love it. I think this is why I write poetry. It can make you feel so many things that you would never really feel or imagine or think about generally. Um, yeah, yeah. The next one is Mary Oliver. Okay, don't judge me, but this book is battered. Um, it's Devotions by Mary Oliver, and I love this one. If you're wondering where I get my books, I got most of them at the Oxford bookstore in CP, Connaught Place, and then I just pick up books wherever I see them, so I would not remember where I got each one, but I'll try to. I'm sure you can get these online, or maybe like any Oxford bookstore. There are so many from her that I love. Oh my god, this one. Yeah, folded page. Chelsea loves that poem. This is Franz Marc's Blue Horses. And there's this one line in this where she says, Franz Marc died a young man, sharpnel in his brain. I would rather die than try to explain to the blue horses what war is. I think this is such a beautiful and heartbreaking line, because war is real, and how do you explain to a creature as gentle and as calm and as majestic and otherworldly as a horse that people kill each other in war, and it's what happens. Like, it breaks my heart, but I love it at the same time. Anything that creates a connection between real life and art and poetry just gets me going. There's another poem that's one of my favorites, from my own collection. It is the last one. It's on the last page. I think I would love to read this one out. It's called Run Off, and I'm reading this one because it's also about horses. If you see here, there's also a picture of horses that I met in uh, somewhere in Rajasthan, and they were just beautiful. And the poem goes like this: Run off, you black cloud of innocence, in the wilderness diversion, run off. Free for the rest of your eternal life, free from the ropes that tie your blessed feet, free from the human knots in your bristly hair made of heaven. The dust in your lashes will depart to the land it belongs to. Run off, angel, to the days when you no longer know the meaning of grief or the agony caused by the bit. On a morn when the world wakes to a silent white sky, run off, sweet soul, to a life without fight. I love horses. I love all animals, and Mary Oliver over here, I love her because she's so much like me. She loves animals, and she talks about and writes about animals. And this picture is so sweet. She's just feeding this little birdie with a spoon. I'm not sure if it's her in the picture or if this is just a picture they used for the cover, but it's perfect for like the kind of writing she has in there. It makes complete sense. Another favorite is Khalil Gibran, and this is the complete works of Khalil Gibran. And it's just this one, I don't even know how to like explain it. It's a heavy book. You just saw what I did to the table, right? It's a big heavy book, and the poems are long and just deep, and you require like silence and a lot of calm and patience to read through them, but it's beautiful. It makes you think on like on a level you would never really think if you don't read his work. um, it also has these black and white prints of his paintings, and yeah, I think you should definitely pick it up if you're into deep poetry. um, there are a lot of books that I don't have right now from a lot of different writers that I really adore, but there was this one poem that is another one of my favorites. um, it is by Pablo Neruda, whom I've heard things about him and I've read things about him that kind of broke my heart, because turns out maybe he was not the kind of person that we would have wanted him to be. He's made some mistakes in his life, and I mean, I don't want to get into that, but there's this one poem by him that I really love, and because I wanted to continue to love this poem, I had to separate the art from the artist. It's called Sonnet 17, and I don't have it on me right now. I don't know where my Pablo Neruda poetry book is. Actually, I have a book from him, but it doesn't even have my favorite poem in it. It's crazy. But yeah, so that one, again, a love poem, talks about loving something not because it is beautiful, but because you have no other choice. Um, I love that one. If you'd like, you can go ahead and search Sonnet 17 and go and read it. Um, it's nice. Apart from this, I love a lot of psalms in the Bible. Um, yeah, I've not read a lot of them right now, but I love them. I mean, if you're somebody who's just starting to read poetry, you could definitely read them. They talk about a lot of different things, and even Khalil Gibran in his, I think, The Prophet, he talks about a lot of different human concepts, and he gives like his view on those things in his poems, and it's inspiring. It's thought inspiring. I think it will provoke you to think on those things and provoke you to create your own judgment on these things and get you to thinking whether you agree with the writer or whether you disagree, and if you do, why. If you agree, why do you agree? It's I love to think about things, so I love things that give me like some sort of inspiration to make up my mind about something. So yeah, this is that kind of work, and I love all art forms. Maybe sometime in the future we can talk about painting, we can talk about pictures and film, and oh my god, I would love to talk about my favorite movies. I'm a big movie watcher. I don't know what it's called. I love cinema, and I love watching all sorts of movies really. So maybe sometime in the future I can make video talking about movies. But yeah, there's so much that I can say about poetry. Um, but I think one video is not going to justify it. So maybe I'll make another one in the future, because I think we're done for today. And I hope I inspired you to read some poetry. Um, if you've ever read my book, I would love to hear what you think about it. I haven't asked for too many reviews since I published it. I just asked people who like sent me a picture or a video of the book. But I would love to hear from like a stranger what they think about my book. See you in the next one.